And welcome to Fueling for Functional Fitness. I'm Jess.
I'm Josh.
And today we're going to be talking about three things: how Open Workout 24.2 went, our predictions for Open Workout 24.3, and setting goals post-Open, nutrition and fitness goals.
Yeah, that's right. This is, we're coming up to the very end of the CrossFit Open. Some of you, this might be where your CrossFit season ends. Others, maybe you're going to do the quarterfinals, which happen, I think, like at the end of April. I think that's when it's happening. And maybe if you're going beyond that, semifinals, that's when things start to get very, very serious. So today we want to cover kind of like a broad spectrum of things, but we're going to go through it one by one.
Yeah.
Should be fun. So, 24.2.
Not as bad as 24.1. I feel like
I think we can all agree on
that's
that.
my lens, is like it wasn't as bad as the first one. I thought it was going to be really boring, 20 minutes, 3 movements, but it actually, I think they were small enough chunks that it kept you moving.
Yeah.
And I don't know, for me, I felt like 10 minutes had passed and it had gone by faster than I thought it would. Yeah. Yep. So, and it was more of a marathon, not a sprint. I mean, you couldn't go fast out of the gate with your row because you guys, even the coaches who led us that day,
we talked a lot about that.
Yeah, had us feel what it felt like to row at a pace that those games athletes were rowing at on the Open announcement.
Yeah.
And, after a minute, you're huffing and puffing, and it's a good reality check. So that was a good gauge of like where to keep my row. I personally kept the deadlifts unbroken. That worked well for me. I'm slow on the reset. So that worked well for me. And then got my rest when I messed up my double unders here and there. So overall I was happy with how it went. How about you?
I mean, similar. I thought that this was a unique workout because for most people, like the everyday CrossFitter, the 24.1 was like a 12 to 15 minute workout. If you're like really gunning it, maybe you're closer to that 10 or even less than that. But then this workout comes out as a 20-minute AMRAP. So it was a 15-minute cap on the first one and a 20-minute AMRAP. So a little bit longer workouts. There's a lot of talk about the same movement patterns. A lot of people talking about that all we've tested in the Open so far has been a hinge and a jump. Yeah, a hinge and a jump. I mean, they're different. They're different movements, but it's been a lot of bending over and standing back up. Rower, deadlifting, obviously, and then the dumbbell snatches.
And burpees.
And burpees too. But anyways, there's been a lot of criticism about the workout, but I actually think it was a really good test. I think that anytime you push a mandatory work cap, meaning like you can't stop until the 20-minute clock hits. 24.1, as soon as you got done, you're good. Everyone else is kind of working through it, but when you're done, you're done. 20 minutes, things change. Like Jess was saying, you have to come out with a pace and you have to figure out your personal best strategy. One of those movements is going to get you. Either you come out too fast on the row and you blow up on the deadlifts, but maybe you're really good at double unders and you can make up time there. Maybe you're really good at the deadlifts, super fast, double unders tax your shoulders, but you can make it up on the row. All sorts of different combinations, but you just kind of have to pick your lane and just stick to it for all 20 minutes. For me personally, like I talked about at the beginning of this video series, is I'm working through a little bit of a back injury. So I scaled this workout, but I was able to do it all the way through, and I felt really good about that. And the row I felt was like the crux. I feel like it really came down to the row on this workout. So I mean, I was happy with it. At first, I was like, this is kind of an ordinary, mundane workout, but you got into it and it actually turned out to be a pretty good test. So, that's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah. I think like what you said about picking your movement, we talked about with the first workout too. Like you kind of had to pick your rest movement.
That's right.
Like maybe you just cruised through the row, but you really pushed it on the deadlifts or whatever. Like I think that is a theme, especially in a 20-minute workout. Like you have to find your breather.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what 24.3 is.
Yeah.
My prediction.
Yeah. Go, because I got nothing.
I don't have an elaborate prediction. I just think we'll see something on the rig. Like we haven't seen toe to bar or pull-ups, chest to bar, muscle ups so far this year, and that's typically a pretty like standard staple of the Open.
Yep.
So I think that we'll see something like that. We haven't, apart from, dumbbell snatch, we haven't seen an Olympic lift with a barbell. So potentially something there. Yeah. Those are my thoughts.
I like mirror those, especially with the rig. I think that there's going to be, you can see the rig in the background here. I think we're going to be doing something on the rig. I think that maybe, since this is the last workout of the Open, that we're going to start to see more of a progression into difficult movements, like kind of like, hey, if you're on the 75% mark, like if you're looking to go to quarterfinals, here's what to expect. So I would say something like a multiple round where maybe like there's 2 rounds of just standard pull-ups, chin over bar pull-ups. Then the next 2 rounds, it's chest to bar. Other than the next 2 rounds, you're looking at bar muscle ups.
Yeah. There's always been like a separator in the past, and we really haven't seen that so far. Like this Open has been pretty accessible, which is great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we're going to see something in this last workout, especially that is going to differentiate like those who are moving on to quarterfinals and those who are not.
Yeah,
so.
Totally agree. And I don't think, we might see another, like an Olympic lift, but having done barbell in the last workout, I'm not sure if we will, but definitely I agree 100%. Yeah. Something on the rig.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So.
Or maybe another thought is wall walks or handstand push-ups, because those are something we haven't seen yet, and that's kind of a higher level.
It's higher level, but we got to remember what Dave Castro said at that affiliate meeting early on. He said that there will be no need for tape this year.
Oh, that's true.
So far we haven't had any floor plans where the rower needed to be 6 feet away. But that he could come out and say, hey, it's a different standard. Maybe we have a different standard.
We're going to use chalk this year instead of tape.
Yeah, something totally different. It's very possible. But I keep going back to that no tape needed this year.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that.
But they could change the standard, and it could be. But no doubt about it, Rick.
Yeah. And likely a shorter time domain, or maybe even one of those workouts where you have to like earn in order to keep moving on. You have to finish X by Y time domain. So
totally.
Maybe. Yeah. Let's move forward and talk about what happens after the Open.
What happens after the
So let's forget about like people who are moving on to quarterfinals, semifinals. Like that's kind of a different thing. If you're doing that, awesome. You're likely like going to keep doing what you're doing, right? Like as far as your nutrition goes, as far as your training goes, you're likely not going to change too much. So let's talk about for everybody else who, like I work with quite a few clients who decided to like go to maintenance calories or like maintenance macros during the Open because they want to like feel good and feel fueled during it. And so for those people, like it's kind of like, well, what do we do now? Like, do you want to stay at maintenance and focus on some of the maybe things that popped up in the Open, or like, are you liking how you're feeling? Do you want to keep focusing on performance? Do you want to shift into a cut? Like it's mid-March, summer's coming, like a lot of people like, like
now's the time.
And now's the time, right? And might want to cut leading up to summer. Or, again, if the Open brought up something for you, like if those deadlifts were like heavy and you want to get stronger, obviously shifting to like a muscle building phase is an option. It's kind of an unconventional time, I would say, to once for most people. Like moving into summer, but whatever. There are no rules.
That's right.
Like you can make the rules.
You make the decision.
Yeah. So I guess that maybe that's the theme of like what now is. We'll like reflect that question back to what are your goals? Like look at the next 3 months. What are you looking to accomplish?
Totally.
So.
Yeah, and I think that being honest with yourself too. Like we talk about this with our clients a lot. You can have like, oh, I want to do this hard cut and I want to be ready for summer and I want to do all these things, but are you ready mentally to do that? Like your actions and your expectations have to align. So like if you come out of the open and you say one of these movements really tripped you up, maybe it was pull-ups, or maybe it was like the weight on the deadlift, and or you know, something like that really tripped you up. Maybe you want to spend like an extra 4 to 6 weeks like working on those things, and maybe that requires a little bit more calories because you're going to stay after class, or you're going to come in and do extra sessions. And so maybe a cut immediately after the open isn't like viable, or maybe that's not the best choice for you at that time. Doesn't mean you can't do it later, but I think you have to be realistic about what you just want to achieve. And it's up to us, the coaches, to help you get there, but it's got to come from you first. So very important.
Yeah. I think it's also important to look at your calendar. And like, for example, we're going on vacation the week after the open. So starting a cut would not be a good idea for either of us, because I don't think we're keen to be that like super diligent and dialed in while we're on vacation with our kids. So I think like looking at your social calendar, your work calendar, travel, like birthdays, anniversaries, like whatever you have going on. I mean, that stuff is always going to go on in our lives. So we can't like totally plan our goals around that, but it's a consideration that if you're like, man, I really had a hard time with pull-ups or whatever in the third workout, we're just going to put that out there. I know I would feel so much better if I was like a little bit lighter. I want to cut. I want them to get easier. But then you look at your calendar and you're like, well, we have like 3 birthday parties, and we're going to be out of town for like travel soccer. And, you know, over like the next 4 weeks, like you can make it work. You might be making your life harder though. So it's all like considerations, like thinking about what your goals are, and giving yourself a little bit of time too, because after like the heat of the open and like, you know, you could be gung-ho to like change something, but like sit on it for the weekend, or you know, a week, and like kind of look at what you've got coming up, and you know, go from there.
Totally. And I think that again, you have to look at the big, look at the whole year, right? So actually a podcast that me and Chris did a while ago, we talked about phases of dieting and how that lines up with like what Jess was saying, like the different things that you have going on in your life. Like summertime for a lot of families is very, very busy. So that's a great time to maintain. It's not necessarily a time to cut where you're just like super strict on yourself and you're weighing and measuring all your food and you have all these Tupperware containers and all that stuff. Maybe that's not there for you, you know, at that time. So during the springtime, like this is a time to either maybe decide that if you want to go to cut or go to maintenance, and then talk to your coach about it, and they can help you line up exactly when you should start. So I mean, again, we'll use like the end of the open, I think is the 15th, right? Or the 15th is like the Friday, so 14th, 15th. Say March 15th is like quote unquote the end of the open. Project out 3 months from there, April 15th, May 15th, and we're looking at the beginning of June. That's when school gets out. That's when summer kind of kicks off for a lot of people. And where do you want to be then? Do you want to be at your goal weight if you want to cut? Do you want to be at your goal weight and then just like focus on maintaining all through the summer? Maybe now cutting is time for you. You know, so it's up to you, but talk to your coach so we can help you out.
I think it also depends on like, did you go to maintenance during the open? Like we have a lot of clients who it wasn't that much different. It might have even been less work than their normal training. So maybe they like stayed in a cut throughout it, and or, you know, whatever, like if your wedding is at the end of the summer, and so like you're cutting through the summer if that's like a goal of yours.
Right.
So pretty much just like zooming out, looking at what you specifically have going on, kind of like where you're at now, how you're feeling, and you know, if you're working with a nutrition coach, just be open with them about like what you're thinking, you know, how you see the next couple months playing out, because we are there to help you make progress towards your goals, whatever those might be. But really getting clear on what those are helps us to help you.
Totally.
So that's it. That's all we got. Good luck on 23.4.3. 23.4. Whatever it is. It can't be any worse than the first one. And it's been great. It's been great doing this. So
hope y'all have enjoyed it, and hope that maybe even later on in the year, maybe you can revisit this. Maybe you got a competition coming up that you're gearing up for at your gym, or maybe you're traveling to do something else, and a lot of these tips, like we talked about earlier on, you can use them really anytime.
Yeah.
So revisit them and share them, and we hope that you got some value out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So this has been Fueling for Functional Fitness for Working Against Gravity. I'm Jess.
I'm Josh.
Thanks, guys.